This is the best tofu scramble recipe that I have ever made. When I first went vegan, one of the foods that I absolutely hated was tofu because I just didn't know how to cook it. But I've come up with my favorite way to cook tofu. Here's the recipe. I just have 150 grams of firm tofu. I have 1 teaspoon of black salt, 1/3 teaspoon of turmeric, 3/4 teaspoon of salt and pepper, or to taste, whatever you prefer. Half a teaspoon of red chili powder because I don't like my scrambled tofu too spicy. For the creaminess, I have 1 teaspoon of garlic, half a teaspoon of salt and pepper again, 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, and 1 cup of plant-based milk of your choice. I've used a high protein almond plant-based milk. You can use whatever you want, oat milk, soy milk, whatever you prefer. So we're gonna start off by scrambling the tofu. So just squeeze it with your hands, make sure there's not enough big pieces because that'll be really hard to cook. So scramble it as much as you can and try to get that eggy look to it. Sometimes I like having bigger pieces, but this kind of tofu is scrambled a bit too easily. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Different tofu brands have different feels, different textures, even firm tofu. One that I buy from one grocery store is really different to one that I buy from another one. One's more firmer, one crumbles more easier. So just keep that in mind when you're choosing your firm tofu. So for the cream, we're just going to use 1 cup of plant-based milk. We're going to mix this nicely so we can add it in our tofu scramble. We're going to start off by, of course, using no oil, add in some water and a non-stick frying pan, add in the tofu once it starts to heat up. Now I'm just going to stir the tofu by itself around for a bit, just to cook the tofu as much as I can before I add the spices in. I'm just going to stir this through for around 2 to 3 minutes, just to get the tofu lightly cooked up. After 2 to 3 minutes of it cooking on high flame, I'm just going to add in the spices. So I'm going to add in the turmeric, salt and pepper, red chili powder, and the black salt. And in a scrambled tofu, it just adds in that perfect balance of egginess, and it changes the game of scrambled tofu. Makes it more realistic, more eggy-like. So don't skimp out on black salt. Have black salt. Go out and get black salt. That is the one ingredient that's going to change this entire scrambled tofu up. So we're going to stir it through for around 3 to 4 minutes on high heat. Now I really want to cook the tofu, and I prefer cooking the tofu because I feel like cooking it as much as I can in the spices gets rid of that tofu blandness flavor that I've gotten so many times before when I've tried making tofu dishes. So cook it as much as you want, and if you feel like it's sticking to the pan, just add in some little bit of water and it'll be fine. So once you're happy with the way the tofu is looking and smelling, this is usually around 4 to 5 minutes of cooking for me. I'm gonna add in the cream, and as soon as you add it in, make sure you put the heat on medium to low and keep stirring it around. I like mine a little bit creamy and a little bit dry. I don't like mine too creamy, so cook it for as long as you want. I would say 2 to 3 minutes from here on low to medium heat, and what it's going to do is the milk is going to get thicker and it's going to really get into the tofu, and the spices are just going to merge into each other, and you're going to get a nice creamy texture by the end. Tofu is done. Sometimes I like adding in some pepper and salt at the top just to give it a little bit more eggy flavor from the pepper, but it's up to you. You can use whatever you want. Do not skimp out on any of the ingredients. Try to find ingredients because every ingredient has a place in this recipe, especially the black salt.